Our next presenter, Jason. Jason is an urban sociologist teaching at Roger Williams University. He's from Houston to Phoenix to Boston to New York City to Providence. So here's Jason.
All right, West Side! I'm going to be a little more pessimistic than everybody, but I'm going to bring you all along. We're going to talk about graffiti because I think a lot about cities, and I love Providence, but you know what? Not usually what people think of as a global city, but there's a lot of graffiti, and you find graffiti in a lot of global cities. Usually we think of it as something dangerous, created by dangerous people. But I want to think about a different type of graffiti today, not just one made by pot smokers and people who have some free time on their hand. And right now, a lot of people in Providence have free time on their hand. Initially, I thought graffiti was something you saw in New York. It was about hating gentrification, but we've seen how gentrification seems to be a major growth strategy in a lot of global cities, including Providence. Build boutiques, build nightclubs, drink, just make sure you have a babysitter to keep an eye on your kid. This is my kid. Let's follow her. What the hell is she walking on? Why is there crap on the sidewalks? Because one of the things you find out after you start going to a lot of cities, and I'm sure you've all left Providence and hopefully left Rhode Island a few times, is there are beautiful buildings, but people use sidewalks, and we need to follow all this stuff that's on sidewalks. This is London. So let's let the British point the way, at least until Roger Williams brings us back, because this stuff is everywhere. This type of graffiti is everywhere. And this type of graffiti, well, I'm not even really sure exactly what it all means. I mean, apparently, you know, what they say about the British, separated by a common language. This is lovely London. I take a class of students there every year, and you know, they're looking at the buildings and looking up and looking like tourists, and I'm looking down and going, hey, I should take a picture of that. Sometimes this stuff just looks like an alien landing spot, because here we are back in Providence, and this stuff is everywhere, and guess what? It doesn't go away. It doesn't get rebuilt. It's not put up by kids smoking pot. It's official. Now, graffiti is sometimes very hard to read. It's messy. It's a messy text. Even if it's in English, even if it's, well, sort of in English, it can be hard to make sense of. I mean, what is going on? Why, when you're walking down sidewalks, going places, trying to enjoy the city, is there all this stuff? Because one of the reasons graffiti causes so much problems for us is we have different emotions about it. Now, this is Paris. And I have a lot of wonderful images about Paris that I'm not going to share with you because their street art's a lot more sophisticated than ours. But we have mixed emotions about graffiti when it's done by civilians, but when it's done by officials, it's we the people. This is Philadelphia. This is where we make our Constitution. I don't know where we're going as a country, but I'm also not really sure where this is supposed to send people, right? And it's all over. And it comes in different colors, and it's color-coded. And Houston, we have a problem. This is Houston. It's got to mean something. It's got to mean something besides just whatever it officially means. Because it's everywhere, and it doesn't go away. And this, I mean, this has been fading. Every time I visit my parents, here it is. This same piece of graffiti near the museum district. Now, obviously, most of you are thinking, well, of course it's official. It's about caution, right? Some graffiti is dangerous, but official graffiti is caution, stand back. You know, here are the British. This is probably a metric system. Stand back, okay? We're going to build something here. We're going to tear up the city. We got plans. You know, I was thinking about just showing this same slide 20 times over and commenting on it. Because there's two messages going on. Now, there's a big message. Perhaps this is all really about capitalism and how it's sucking our brains out and killing our hearts, and it does sound much better in the French than in the English, right? And usually when we think about graffiti, we think about something that's really, well, disgracing cities, scratched on cities. Though sometimes graffiti is very humanistic, dare I say earnest. Nobody got that. All right. This is Oscar Wilde's grave in Père Lachaise in Paris. Of course, now, this is what it looked like last year. Now it's been completely whitewashed and is behind glass barriers. I don't know, maybe graffiti is about breaking out old Velvet Underground albums. Nico, you know, graffiti are tags. People, they tag, they say, hey, this is my spot. This is Narragansett Improvement Company. They're improving. They make beer. They don't make beer, but they do other stuff. Sometimes what I think about this official graffiti is about putting us in our place. Now, this is Dutch. This is in Amsterdam, so it's actually about digging a pit. It's about saying we're going to tear up this part of the city, which, when you're in Amsterdam, you want to just have a beer and watch people. This is a campus here in Providence of a school that could pay a lot more money to the city. But you know what? Hey, you know what? They have a history of slavery and they have a history of spray painting their grass. I mean, good for them. It's got to be okay. It's all okay, right? The point is, we need to think about the messages we're writing on our city, not just as civilians, but what we're letting officials write, because they have plans which may or may not be funded, which may or may be funded over a long time. And let me tell you, this isn't a bike path. It's not a street. And every time I walk my daughter to the coffee shop, I see this. And I'm not sure where it's taking us long term, but that's what I'd like you to think about today, looking for these other messages that are scrawled on our cities that are official graffiti. Thank you so much.